بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
It's good to be back after the big storm, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you for coming in this cold weather. It was very cold this morning. The car sounds different in this weather, subhanallah. I didn't know if it's running normally or not, but I said, subhanallah al-azim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look at all of us with His mercy and look at this moment where most people are sleeping and we took this little thing, don't want even to call it a hardship because you're coming here for Allah and just put the effort to come to the masjid, and many people are sleeping. Some people woke up, prayed Fajr and went back to bed, subhanallah al-azim. This is a blessing and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tabat, the continuity on this. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen.
Ameen.
Today I'm going to start and hopefully inshallah finish one of the beautiful surahs of the Quran. All surahs of the Quran are beautiful. Surah Al-Adiyaat. You all must memorize Surah Adiyaat. It's a very short surah, 11 ayat from the short surahs. And if you remember, we started with the order of revelation, the surahs by the order of revelation. And in this stage, this is around 7 months after the Bi'tha. We're still in the first year Prophet Muhammad was sent. And at this stage, the focus of this Quran Makki, we cover the three main focuses: build the relation between the Muslims with Allah, and then explain how to avoid the badness of nafs, the badness of the shaitan, the badness of the others. That's why in the very first 3 surahs, it mentions the stories of Abu Jahl and Al-Walid. It's not random. It's like you cannot just be naive as a Muslim and work on the positive and as if the negative does not exist. And the third, axis, call it, is working on the Muslims. Because the Muslim does not just become a Muslim, he flips a switch or she flips a switch and then everything is fixed. Lots of work need to happen, And this is not, I'm talking about Muslim become Muslim. Don't think about a convert. Think about us. You were born as a Muslim, that's fine, And what if you don't work on your nafs? You don't work on what you do. You're the same person. The same person when you were 12 or 10 or 5 or whenever you stopped working on that nafs. That is the thing. So around this area, around this time, I should say, the Muslims started meeting in Dar al-Arqam. And that's the first year, maybe a couple of surahs after this when they started meeting. Now, think about these surahs that are coming as these are surahs to work on the traits of the Muslims, preparing the Muslims for the next phase. And I think the importance of these surahs come from something that we are missing. We as Muslims, all of us, not just us in this community, I'll tell you what it is. We work always with the assumption that we all are ready. We all are ready. If we have some unity when I say unity, think about it at whichever level you want. Individuals or organizations or countries or whatever, that everything is going to be fixed. or if we meet, or if we have numbers. But then, when actually we meet, we make a mess because the individuals are not ready. Or when we unite, we make even bigger mess. Or when you bring two groups to meet together, we make a bigger mess. And then we blame each other. But we're not ready. That's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not even start with the da'wah outside. Why he was satisfied, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Well, not the right word to say satisfied. He wanted everyone to become Muslim. But because he knew that this is the haqq, this is the message from Allah, he didn't want to keep it for himself. That is his method. But at the same time, he was preparing the people around him, the Sahaba, to become the people that can carry this Islam, carry this message and take it to the outside world. Subhanallah. And this is one of those ayat and one of those surah. And this surah is one of the surahs in ulum al-Quran. Ulum al-Quran are those sciences that supporting the tafsir. They're not the tafsir, but you need them to do the tafsir. In the ulum al-Quran, one of the topics that they discuss is the Makki and the Madani Quran. Some surahs are agreed, unanimously, this is Makki, like Al-Alaq. Some surahs are Madani, like Al-Nisa, Al-Ma'idah, Al-Baqarah. And then some surahs, the scholars have, difference in opinion, and this is one of them. I'll tell you why this is one of them. First of all, there is narrations. I'll explain it in a minute, how these narrations, contradict the timing. But second of all, and this is important, the topic of the surah, or when you look at the surah, from the outside, it looks like it fits the other era more. So this is one of those surahs that many scholars thought that this is in a Madani Quran. And beside these narrations, you will find narrations that Rasulullah ﷺ read this surah, and there is a Sahih Hadith that he read this surah in Medina. So remember, Rasulullah ﷺ was reciting the Quran. So sometimes he's reciting the surah, and the next surah also is one of this type, Surah Al-Kawthar, where there is a Sahih Hadith that he was, napping, he woke up, and I'll tell you this maybe next week, inshallah, about Surah Al-Kawthar, and it's in Al-Madinah. But that might not be the first time Rasulullah ﷺ is reciting Surah Al-Kawthar or Surah Al-Adiyat. But what happened is that there are Muslims that are hearing it from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ for the first time. And then they tell you a Sahih Hadith that Rasulullah ﷺ was with us, and then he napped, and then he woke up and he said, I received this surah, and you get the sense that this is the first time. Now, why am I saying this? I want to tell you that Islam focused on some stuff that we think it's auxiliary, it's peripheral, it's not a core value in Islam. Those surahs come to tell you, no, this is from the beginning. This is to fix the manner system for the individual, and this is the way that you want to save yourself and save the society. Not just by praying and reading Quran. And this is not to undermine praying and reading Quran, as those are core. But those core, we identify them as core values for a Muslim. But we don't, for example, identify being truthful as a core value. He lies, No, he lies. That's a big problem. That's a kabira, Rasulullah ﷺ was sitting and he's being asked by the Sahaba, and then a Muslim does that and Muslim does that, and then he said, yes. The Sahaba were like surprised, because a Muslim doesn't become a non-Muslim if he commit even a kabira to Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And there is a difference in opinion in that, if he commits a kabira and insists on it. But then they asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-Muslim yakdhib, the Muslim lies. Then the hadith says that his color sallallahu alaihi wasallam is changed. Like he you know, when your color changed because you're upset, and he said la 3 times, and the Muslim does not lie. You know, so we don't take that as a core value for a Muslim, you know. And with or without us knowing, sometimes we teach our kids to lie, you know. Tell your uncle that we're busy, we're going to this restaurant, and then you don't go to the restaurant. You're sitting all day with your wife and your kids, and you know, but you taught him to lie. You know, tell the brother that I'm busy all Saturday, and then he sees me watching TV all Saturday. You know, so that we do. And these surahs, Surah Adiyaat, Surah after that. We will talk about Surah Al-Ma'un also. These surah came as a shock to the society. Shock till today. There is no other religion that put these values as a core value for religion. Religion always before Islam and after Islam was rituals. Rituals. You know? You do stuff, yeah, they tell you about the manners, you know, be this, because he will love you and you will love him, this, but they don't tell you that you're not a Muslim, like Prophet Muhammad is telling you, you're not a Muslim if you lie, subhanallah. He said, no, that liar is not a Muslim, subhanallah. So there is no other religion that did that. So that is the third factor in the confusion, that these things came to fix the manners for the individuals. And in our books, that this fits what? This fits the Madani era. You know? We will talk about Surah Al-Ma'un in a few surahs. Like it talks about a very small thing. You know, I borrow something from you, I should return it. How is this building in Islam? Yeah, this is how the Islam is built. When the truthfulness reach that level for the individuals, then the community is built on that. You know, that is how it's built. And this surah, Surah Al-Adiyat, is number what in the Quran? It's number 14 in the Revelation. We did 13 surah, and this is number 14. And it's number 100 in the order of the Quran. 100. It comes after Surah Al-Zalzala and before Surah Al-Qari'ah. What is the importance of knowing the order of the Quran? Does anybody know? The revelation, we are following that revelation. You don't need to know it. It's good to know, but like for the tafsir, for our method of tafsir. But the order of the surah in the Quran, is that something we should know or we should not know?
We should.
And why is that? We should.
There's a connection.
There is a connection, yes. There is lots of phases of i'jaz. That's number one. Between the surahs, the beginning and the end of the surah, the end of the surah and the beginning of the surah, although they were revealed in another time. And that is one of many sides of the miracle of the Quran. And there is another reason for that we should know. In many scholars, and this is a side note, it's not encouraged to do nukus in the Quran. If you're reading the Quran, that you read from the latter Quran and then you go to the earlier Quran in the order. And I see many people do that, by the way. You pray behind someone and he starts by reading Surah Abasa and then he read the last 2 ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah. You know, don't do that intentionally, you know. If you read the Quran, try, especially if you're an imam, just take a look at the Quran, if you don't memorize it, and see which one is before, Zalzala or Al-Qari'ah. That's important, okay? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran in this order. Prophet Muhammad was telling the Sahaba, put this surah after Al-Qari'ah. Put this before that, you know? So it must mean something. And then when I come up with my order, that's my order, okay? So that's just a side note. Question? Comment?
Is that like sinful thing or is
No, it's not.
It's
sinful.
encouraged thing?
Yeah, it's encouraged, yeah. Because there is no clear nas about it, but like the scholars thought of it, like if it's waqf from Allah, Now here is what some scholars think, that something you might be in the gray area of doing something wrong. If you pick the ayat intentionally, and it's not about your hifd, it's not about, a mistake. Like some imams or some people, when they pray, even try to remove the ayat of the adab, or when it talks about mushrikeen for no reason. This is not a sunnah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do it, but I think they're trying to be nicer or something. So you, for example, you memorize Surah Yasin, you read the ayat and then you skip those 5 ayat, and then the next ayah you read the next. So again, I'm not talking about, don't tell me if I just memorize this part and that part. If I memorize the beginning of Al-Kahf and the end of Al-Kahf, that's perfectly fine. You're going with the order. But if you pick and choose, then some scholars have a stronger opinion about that. But yeah, it's not haram. It's just, something makruh to do on purpose to flip the Quran. So this surah, I'll just read the surah in a minute with the translation, and then we will go to سبب النزول. سورة العاديات. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعاديات ضبحا. By the panting chargers. فالموريات قدحا. By the igniters of sparks. فالمغيرات صبحا. By the raiders at dawn. فأثرن به نقعا. Raising clouds of dust. فوسطن به جمعا. Storming in the midst, into the midst. إن الإنسان لربه لكنود. The human being is ungrateful to his Lord. وإنه على ذلك لشهيد. And he bears witness to that. وإنه لحب الخير لشديد. And he is fierce in his love of good things. أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور. Does he not know when the grave's contents are scattered around? وحصل ما في الصدور. And the heart's contents are retrieved. إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. On that day, their Lord is fully informed and aware of them. Short surah. The surah has three sections. The first one is the qasam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears with the Adiyat, and we'll talk about sabab al-nuzul in the first ayat. Those are ayat 1 to 5. And the second part is the core part of the surah, has the main topic of the surah, which is the humankind is ungrateful to Allah. That is the statement, the main statement of the surah. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. And this word, we will talk about it. If we just explain the word kanud today, we're good. And at the end, ayah 9 to 11 gives you the cure to that, selfishness, stinginess, by remembering the end, remembering death, remembering the ba'th. Very short surah, impactful and powerful surah. And we start with the first part. As I said, the main topic of the surah is what? Is that the insan is ungrateful. So what does the surah start with? Start with a qasam. And that qasam, Allah swears with something. Al-Adiyat. Al-Adiyat, as in the translation I read, is the charging. What is a charging? In the tafseer, in the common tafseer, most people think the Adiyat are the horses. And there is a few tafsir that agree on that. But remember, when was this revealed? In the first year. There is no Adiyat, there is no jihad, because this is a metaphor, the first 4 ayat. If you pay attention to what I said, these are the horses that are charging, that their hooves ignite the sparks when they run fast. And when they فالمغيرات صبحا, when they raid at the dawn, all that did not happen for at least 10 more years. So there is most tafsir, they say that the Adiyat are the camels that they use in Hajj. Although Hajj also was not there yet, but there was Hajj, but the Muslims were not commanded to do Hajj, I should say that. The Hajj, when the people, have what they call it in Nafra, they leave Arafah to Muzdalifah at the old time, they go with their camels, and then from Muzdalifah to Mina, that walk that they do to do the Mabit, they stay there, and at the old time they also use camels. Now, I just want to say one thing, there is a hadith that this is about the horses, and you can find it on some famous websites like Islam Web and other websites that you might be looking if you do search about Surah Al-Adiyaat. The hadith that says that the sabab al-nuzul, I'm going to tell you the sabab al-nuzul because it's famous, okay? Ali radiallahu anhu was charged by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go in a Sariya. Sariya is like a small group of people, not like an army, like 3, 4, 12 people, to do like a commander's job, like to do specific job. And it was near Medina, so it should be like a job for a few days. But Ali radiallahu anhu stayed for a month. Although they did not have cars and trains, but a month is long period. You need 2 months to go to Sham, to travel to another country. So the munafiqeen, some hypocrites started. This is in Medina again. I shifted your mind to go like 12, 13 years ahead. And Ali radiallahu anhu is doing that in Medina. The munafiqeen there in Medina, the hypocrites started saying that, they all must be killed, like by now. They did not return in a month, so we should pray janazah on them and that, So this surah was revealed. This hadith that this surah was revealed is not sahih. Like I checked it yesterday in the hadith books. There is 2 narrations. One is strange, like gharib al-hadith, and one is munkar, like you should not follow. And this hadith about this story, if you just search by sabab nuzul Surah Al-Adiyat, you will get it on some famous website. However, that does not mean, as I said in the beginning, that was why I started by saying, that does not mean that this event with Ali did not happen. That does not mean Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not read the surah at that time. Because as I said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reciting the Quran. The Sahaba were reciting the Quran. Let me give you an analogy. If you pray in this area, I expect you in the next 3 weeks to hear Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr 50 times. It's the season, right? It's Ramadan. And you will hear شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Now, if it's me as an individual that I'm hearing this ayah for the first time from Surah Al-Baqarah, شهر رمضان, this is first time for me, right? Now, that does not mean this is the first time شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن was recited. So that is what was happening. People enter Islam, new Muslims every day, and then many of them hear the surahs for the first time. Questions about that story? Now, go back to the atmosphere of this surah. This surah starts by swearing with something that is not happening in the society yet. Either it is a metaphor for the jihad. If the qasam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing with the horses, that's a metaphor for what? For the jihad, for fighting fi sabilillah. Or, and that's the most likely, swearing with the camels that helps with the acts of Hajj. And that's a metaphor to honor the Hajj. You know, both activities did not start. Most likely this was about the camels and the Hajj activities, most likely. Why and what is the relation between the Hajj or the horses with the core of the surah? Let's look at the core of the surah and we will come back to that. Okay? The surah, the core of the surah is in the second section, ayat 6 and 7 and 8. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. The insan, the humankind, is definitely indeed a kanud. What does kanud mean? Kanud is a shahid, stingy. Kanud is ungrateful. Kanud is lacking in giving. That is what a kanud is. This word is not repeated in the Quran. This is one place that the word kanud is in the Quran. Open the dictionary of the Quran, put kanud. That's it. And the meaning of kanud actually has, I was reading our Tafseer for Ibn Ashur, rahmatullah alayh, and he's saying that this word, kanud, is used in Lughat al-Arab. Arabs had different languages like Mudar and Adnan and Tamim. Each tribe had a word. So he was saying that in some of those tribes, when you say kanud, it means you are kafir bin ni'mah, ungrateful to what you're given. In some of them, it means stingy. If you say that kanud, the person who does not give, you know. And in some Arab languages, it means the one that from how much he's a kafir, like he's ungrateful. You know, when we say kafir doesn't only mean a disbeliever. Kafir is the one that covers from what? Covers anything, so you don't give back. You know, kafir bin ni'mah, that you don't appreciate the ni'mah of Allah, even if you know that He's Allah. But it's called kafir bin ni'mah. Okay? Kafir billah is the one that goes big and, you know, disbelieve in Allah. You know, the ayah, يُعْجِبُ الْكُفَّارِ. What does al-kuffar mean in that ayah? Al-kuffar. يُعْجِبُ الْكُفَّارِ. That's a quiz. No kids here. We give them $5 if they answer. But like, what is يُعْجِبُ الْكُفَّارِ? Kuffar in that ayah means the farmers. The farmers.
Yeah.
That when they put the seeds, yes, and then يُعْجِبُ الْكُفَّارِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them as a kuffar. They did not disbelieve in anything, but they covered the seeds, you know. You don't clear the seeds, because the first time I seeded a land, I just let the seed on top. Nothing happened, you know. You need to cover the seed, so that's why they are called kuffar, you know, in that context. Subhanallah. So all those meanings are for what? For kanud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word that the different tribes refer to it as if all those meanings are in humankind. All those, by the way, those are natural in a human. Those are natural in a human. To be stingy in giving. To be, you know, doesn't want to do the right thing. That's why Ali radiallahu anh said, حُفَّتِ الْجَنَّةُ بِالْمَكَارِهِ بِالْمَكَارِهِ. Who among you wanted to wake up today and to do wudu? Wallah, I opened the faucet and I waited for the water to become a little warmer, you know. None of us, you know, we wanted to come because inshallah we know the reward. But like I'm saying, is your nafs, you know, was pushing you to do this? Your nafs was pushing you not to do this. Your nafs was telling you that you stay home and you will watch this on YouTube. Your nafs is telling you to do the opposite, you know. So this is how we are kanud. Kanud is ungrateful. Kanud is the one that remembers the thing for him, but not against him. You know, you remember what you didn't get from Allah. You know, I sat with this sister 3 weeks ago, and she's in like what I was described, that she's in crisis mode. And when talking to her, there's no crisis. MashaAllah, everything in her life is perfect. You know, she has a job, she's not sick, she doesn't have any problem. Only she's 30s and she didn't get married, you know? And she, got engaged a couple of times and all that, but she left. I didn't see the crisis. I did not see the crisis at all. And then, again, maybe I'm stingy in my feelings, but like, I didn't see it. And then, subhanAllah, I was thinking of the blessings that she has. And then she look at the one thing that she missed, And that's all of us. That's all of us, not at that level, more or less, but that's all of us. That's why you need to switch the way that we're thinking about the relation with Allah. All that is in the definition of Qanun. Prophet Ayub, when he was sick, you always hear the story of Prophet Ayub as what? As a sabr story, patience and sickness, and he's patient. But like it's also a grateful story, about the gratefulness. When Prophet Ayub, nobody stayed with him except his wife. And then his wife, after like 18 years of him being sick. Not days, 18 years. Brothers, when we get sick like for a few days, I remember the COVID days, when I get COVID, I'm just waking up, praying Fajr, and sitting and waiting for the day to finish. So just counting days, if I'm gonna make it, subhanAllah, and that's a week or two. This is 18 years of sickness. Prophet Ayub, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
18.
And what did he do? His wife could not take it anymore. His wife said that you're a prophet. Make dua for Allah. I never hear you saying dua that give me shifa. And what was his answer? He said something that is so profound. He said, I enjoyed good health for 80 years, 80. And I had bad health for 18 years. And you want me to be ungrateful and complain about the 18 years? I mean, who thinks like that? Who count the years that you were good and the year that you were sick? That no one, this is his answer, subhanAllah. So this is like how we think that we're grateful. Why? Because I make $3,000 and then I put $20 in the box and I feel like I did everything, And when we're talking, by the way, about gratefulness, we always link it to money because we live a so materialistic life. We think everything of money, But like, if you want excellence, and all of us want excellence, you will hear this in Ramadan. And this is again, I'm not against what you will hear in Ramadan about increasing your ibadah and doing this, but it's not the only cure. It's not the only cure to do the more of the same. Doing the more, but if you're looking for the ihsan comes when you fight your nafs. You do something against your nafs. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. You know the translation of that? Whoever avoid the stinginess of your nafs, that is the person that reach excellence. Sorry, I'm pointing. In Arabic culture, you should not point or say something, when you say something negative about a person, you don't say, if brother Muhammad, gets sick and die. You say, if a person gets sick and die. If you say something good, you can give it by an example. So, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. Any person that avoid the stinginess of their nafs, that's the prescription for what? For ihsan. You want ihsan? You want to go above and beyond. How? Not just by doing more. You pray Taraweeh, mashallah, great. You pray 5 times. This is the definition of Muslim, by the way, to pray 5 times. And what we are doing, this is the definition of Muslim. The ihsan is to fight against what? Against your nafs. Your nafs is telling you. I don't know about you, brothers, but me, when I intend to to pay any amount of money, especially on Ramadan. You know, let's say I want to pay $1,000 and I put $1,000. Rarely my nafs doesn't talk to me about that amount. No matter what that amount. I'm talking about myself now. You know, my nafs always talk to me about that it's too much. You know, it's too much. You know, why to give that? And then the shaitan comes to you. The shaitan, when the shaitan fails to get you out of the ibadah, try to take it out or minimize the ibadah. We know that. How? Instead of giving the brother $1,000, give him 500 and see how he does with it. It sounds like noble that I'm doing muraqabah and I'm putting controls on him, you know. And then the shaitan reminds you with everything wrong about the people that you're paying. You're paying for the masjid here. Anything that bothers you ever in the masjid, the shaitan brings it to your mind. Do you remember 3 years you did this and the brother told you that? Or the administration did not agree to switch the AC to 66, they switched it to 68, right? Every bad thing in your mind about the masjid or the organization, right? The shaitan will bring it to you. And then leave the rest of your nafs, because the nafs is shahiha, stingy. وَمَن يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. That is the prescription. You know, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُونَ. The insan is a kanun. What time is it? I don't see the time. What time is Ishraq today? Ishraq is 7:10?
15 or 14.
Okay. So five more minutes. We have a short surah next time, so we will finish the surah next week, and then we will also start with Surah Al-Kawthar, inshallah. But I really don't want to rush through this because it's a core value. This is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam preparing the Sahaba to carry this Islam, and this is when they started learning. Imagine this is the beginning of their Sunday school, you know, their full-time school, Dar al-Arqam. And this surah comes, so what they do, they start learning. What do they learn first? That you need to avoid the shuh of your nafs. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. And by the way, I said that we focus on money, and I only talked about money. Being kanud, you can be kanud in your feelings, kanud in your actions, kanud with yourself. You can be ungrateful. How can you be ungrateful? We live in an ungrateful society. Brothers, you don't know that? Look how people are complaining about the snow. I mean, you feel cold is one thing, but when you hear it, like last week, I heard it on the TV. They're running in New York City, and the kids are saying, "Oh, this is awful, this is awful. I cannot take this anymore." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending ni'mah. Ni'mah. This is ni'mah. You know, we got all this snow and all this. Don't hate me, I feel cold just like all of you. I'm just saying this is a ni'mah. Anytime it rains, you need to think about the ni'mah. You know, where do we get our water from? In this area, we either get it from wells, and it's impacted by this, or from those rivers around us, and those are impacted by this. So when do we have that in our mind? You say awful about this ni'mah from Allah. You know, this was last week in little kids. That's what we teach the kids. You know, that if this happened and it's inconvenient for you, it's an awful thing. You know, it's a terrible thing. That's ungrateful society we live in. Forget the money for a second. You know, when is the last time you were not mistaken? You're not mistaken. You know, you are in a small, I don't want to say even, you know, dispute, conflict, but simple conflict, you know, and you let go. You let go because you want to give. You know, you don't want to be stingy in your dealing with your brothers, you know. So when did that happen? You know, you see people, very nice people. They pray Taraweeh, and they will tell you that Taraweeh should be 200 rakah, you know, or else it's not right. And after that, I rode with one of them 2 months ago. He did not yield for any person in the street. Not at all. And then I commented after we arrived, and brother, like you didn't stop anywhere. You didn't yield for anyone. Any chance you can take it, you take it. He's like, I take what's mine. I take what's mine. You know? Again, that's a mindset. You know, many of us like that in driving, in dealing with others, in treating our families, and that's canoe. If you are grateful to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, you will treat this differently. Just to close the loop on this before I end, I will not finish the ayah. We will be at the وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. How is the person testify against that? The next ayah says, how you testify against yourself. You know, we will be there. But I want to close the loop on what? We said the surah started by swearing with either the marching horses or the camels and Hajj. And those two actions, we said, they did not start at that time, the first year of Islam. What is the relation between that and being stingy or like ungrateful or fighting your nafs? Those two, regardless of which one is the one, and I go with most tafsir, which is it's the camels in Hajj. These are the things that you reach that level. This is the end game. If you achieve gratefulness to Allah, if you know how to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will reach either the peak of Islam, which is to fight for Islam, or you reach the peak of Islam in the spiritual way, which is Hajj. The highest moment for a Muslim, if you perform Hajj. You know, what do you get when you do Hajj? A clean slate. You get a clean slate. So that you achieve it if you what? If you are grateful to Allah. So that is the end game. It's kind of the surah tells you, you want to become, grateful to Allah, be careful. Your nafs is your enemy. Your nafs is your enemy, and you testify against that. And then we will talk next time about the third part. What is the third part? The third part in how to do that. And in short, how to do that? By remembering al-akhirah. That's the surah for anyone who will not be here next time, but we will elaborate more on how to remember al-akhirah and how to testify against yourself. But the surah is, وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swear, honor, emphasize these great things about Hajj. This is how you want to live. Not all of us want to reach that point where we have, the highest spiritual level. We want to reach the peak of ourselves. How to do that? Fight the stinginess of your nafs. Be grateful to Allah. How to do that? I know that is what I want to be. Remember al-akhirah. Remember that we all are going to the grave. That is the third part. Subhanallah. Any questions, any comments about the ayat? We will still elaborate more on the last part, as I said, and we will close the surah next time, and we will start with Surah Al-Kawthar. Any questions? جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Got it?
Yes. بارك الله.